So the other day I was checking out a post, and the post was about a person who had a mule. When they would go in the round pen, work the mule had a bunch of anxiety. He was kind of bouncing off of panels and showed a lot of fear, and there was all kinds of things going on, and that happens sometimes. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk about it had a lot more to do with the comments than the actual problem itself. And a lot of the comments on there, there's, I don't know, 30 or so comments on this post, and 99% of them said that you can't round pen a mule and mules hate the round pen. And that's false. It's a myth. And the reason why I say that is because I think that has a whole lot more to do with the person in the round pen than it does the mule. And the reason why I say that is because I always tell you guys, the biggest training tool that you have is the ability to read your mule. And if you got a mule in a round pen and he's already got a lot of anxiety, the last thing that you want to do is push him harder and add to that anxiety. So I think that's where a lot of people miss that read on their mule. And so it compounds, and people are putting pressure on them, getting them to go, and you know, the mule's not quite sure what they're asking for, and the mule's anxiety goes up and the person's anxiety goes up. So it falls apart. You know, and I think that has a lot to do with you know, our ability to read them, like I said, but it also has to do with your timing and how much pressure you put on, how much you take off. You know, and what I see a lot of is people, well, you got to get to their feet, you know. Well, yeah, you do, but you got to get to their mind first. And so you have to figure out what it is that's causing that mule all that anxiety before you start asking him to do a whole bunch of other stuff. So again, you know, your job would be to figure out what causes it, fix it, because if you're just trying to push him around, all you're trying to do is cover up a symptom. And I think that's where a lot of people have been struggling lately. So with that being said, you know, when for example, you know, if I'm going to move my mule around, doesn't matter what it is, if I ask him to move off, I got to give him a second to even remotely think about, you know, what it is that I'm asking him to do, right? So if I'm asking him to go around a little bit in a circle and he starts moving, there's no need for me to start tailing him, right? And start applying a lot more pressure to him, right? Because he's given me the answer, if that makes sense. Right? So there's no need for me to keep applying pressure to him, and the only time I'm going to add any more to it is if he stops or does something that I don't want him to be doing at the moment, if that makes sense, right? So I think that's where a lot of these mules start building up anxiety in here, is that whenever we ask them to do something, we continue to put the pressure on them, you know. And I think if we step back just a second and give that mule just a minute to figure it out, I think we'd be surprised at their level of thinking about what we're wanting them to do and actually making an attempt to do it. So one of the things that I see a lot is, you know, for example, he's licking and chewing, so I'm gonna let him finish that. And the reason I say people apply a lot of pressure when they shouldn't be, so let's say I'm asking him to move off, right? And he goes. And like I said earlier, if he's doing his job, there's no need for me to keep applying more pressure, right? So, but if I continually sit here and apply pressure to him, this is just my body. He's getting a little tense, he's getting confused, you know, he's bracing up right now, he's disengaging. I didn't ask him to do that, you know. So, and now he's confused, but I'm going to keep applying more pressure to him, and see how he just acts there like that, right? And I just keep applying pressure, keep applying pressure, keep applying pressure. And he stopped, and he didn't know, you know, he's bracing up, he's tensing up, he's not quite sure exactly what I'm asking him, okay? And I mean, that was a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's kind of what transpires when people are working them on the ground versus, okay, I've asked him to go, he's going. I'm not asking for anything else other than for him to keep going. I'm not applying any more pressure to him. I'm just standing here and he's doing what I asked him to do, right? So take that as a little bit of information, and maybe you can start thinking about how it is, you know, you're applying any sort of pressure to your mule in a round pen or just any sort of groundwork. So as far as the round pen is concerned, you know, the round pen is a tool. You know, it's a tool like your bits, it's a tool like your spurs, your halter, and it can be used incorrectly as well. So, you know, I think it's a great place to start. You know, especially with young guys like him. It gives me a controlled environment, number one, and number two, I think one of the biggest things that people miss on this whole groundwork stuff, whether it's in a round pen or not, I think the point that people miss on this stuff is this is where we teach them the answers to stuff that we're going to be asking them a lot later, right? And so part of being a good leader is A, setting your mule up for success, and B, setting up yes answers, right? And so that's what we do down here, right? And so for example, if I come up beside him here and I put this up here, right, and he disengages his side there and he untracks his front end, and I do the same thing here, you know, when he learned that, he didn't understand what that was until you get on his back and you are connecting this rein. When I say it's a rein, but right now it's going to be the equivalent of that rein getting connected to that hip back there. Right? Does that make sense? So, you know, this groundwork stuff is good. It's good for everything that you're wanting to do down the road, right? And it gives us a good place to teach them these things before we get on their back. And I think that's where a lot of people are struggling, is understanding the why behind this stuff. You know, so think about that for a little bit, and if you got any questions, let me know.